What's going on, guys? We got another segment that I like to call Pivotal, where basically I am interviewing some very important people in this industry or just in business in general that have a much stronger skill set in areas than I do. And it's important for me to bring these people on because I think that there's an immense amount of knowledge and insights that they can bring to you guys that is much different just from the way that maybe I think or my background. So I'm actually here at Redcon1. So this is Ryan Monahan. He is the CMO at Redcon1. But Ryan has only been the CMO at Redcon for 3 months. But I think if you guys hear a little bit of like his kind of experience and what he's kind of done before this, I think you'll kind of see why Aaron brought him in and why he's going to be a very integral part of the success at Redcon1. So give my audience a little bit of sense of like, how'd you get here?
Sure. So I appreciate the time to sit with you today. When I met Aaron, I recognized this was probably 5-6 years ago. He was cut from a different cloth. It's hard to find entrepreneurs, and we're blessed to live in Boca Raton where there's a lot of entrepreneurs, but there are very few people who are as transparent as Aaron has been. And so Aaron and I befriended each other out of a shared passion around marketing. I had ran my own agency from 2005 and never had intention of ever working for somebody. I was a passionate entrepreneur, and our agency really took a deep dive in 2 things: consumer behavior that we can tie to a research, and then secondarily disruptors or growth companies. So if you think of some of the popular companies that have sprung up in the last 3-4 years that have disrupted industries, our agency would be hired by some of the venture capital or the hedge funds that are investing in these, and they have to know, A, is it a viable business? B, is it true disruption, or are we changing logistics? And then C, how to measure these things. So we had the blessing to be able to work with a lot of different type of projects. But the one thing that rooted back with Aaron was, as we worked on some of these growth companies, many of them were were never going to be profitable. They might exit with an IPO, but as you can see in the market, it's earnings are the market's naturalizing. Yeah. You have to be profitable. As Aaron's company grew literally from 0 to fastest growing, as a friend from the outside, it was always encouraging to share information, but also to hear from him. Yeah. He thinks outside of the box. So a few months back before that, we started working a little more closely, and just realizing he had built not only a great business, but a business that's truly becoming a global entity. And so as we started looking at our paths, it just started to make sense, where I said, if I'm going to work with somebody, and in this case for somebody, it has to be somebody I have complete trust in. And Aaron was really the only person who would, in this case, I would feel comfortable to leave my own career and my own company to work under someone, but only because we have a shared vision that I trust in where he's going.
And I think anybody that has been an owner of a company themselves, and for them to shift gears and essentially be an employee of another one, I mean, you have to really believe in what's going on within the 4 walls of the business. And it's something that, obviously speaks volumes to what Redcon1 is doing. And I specifically was impressed when I was here talking about Black Friday around just like the way they're able to like quickly shift gears in their marketing, in their content creation. And I wanted to ask him, at least initially, around like, how do you approach like marketing in a hypergrowth company where like time is money? How do you balance, trying to be perfect? How do you balance like the integrity of the content over sometimes needing to get things out and test, and like having a constant flow to keep the conversation going?
That's a great question, and I think it's what we spend the most amount of time having to check and balance on. So me personally, I spend a tremendous amount of my time thinking about the macro. A, does it fit the brand, hit the brand filter to make sure that Aaron and Eric would be proud of what we're putting out? Secondarily, is it driving towards not just the economic KPIs, but also equity within the customer base? Are they getting more out of our brand than any other brand? So some of the areas when you look at iteration is kind of how we internally think is, do we have our finger on the pulse? and what's happening and how do we become part of something that doesn't feel inauthentic. In this space, there's a lot of brands that are doing a lot of great things, and I have nothing bad to say about anyone. One thing though that I love about this place is we're not looking sideways, we're always just looking forward. So we're trying to always develop a better relationship with our customer base, whether it's through different team members or through different promotions. So to answer your question, there's a happy medium of test and iterate extremely quickly, and also being super honest about what works and what doesn't work. I think a lot of times that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
When something feels like it worked or it worked forever, and then you have to say it's just less effective or less efficient, how do you actually, have a little bit of humbleness to come back and say, this was great and this was a great learning, now let's test something new.
With you guys having like ton of resources, I mean, basically you guys have in-house everything at this point in terms of video, editors, website guys, anything in between there. Like, how do you kind of, from your side, like obviously having a ton of ideas all the time, like how do you kind of temper that in a way that's like useful to, reaching the goals over just like, we have so much resources to be able to like test everything, let's try to like do it all. How do you kind of like balance all that out?
That, I can say, was one of the more difficult parts coming in, because there's a lot of great ideas that could lead to a lot of big wins. I think the answer has been through character development and career development with individuals. So from our leadership team, for example, you mentioned the web department, making sure that the department leader understands the metrics I'm working against. And so as he's filtering through products, he kind of becomes a spam filter. Let's assume all ideas were amazing, where he says, okay, of these 10, these 3 fit what we're currently executing against, and this one is worth bringing. So it puts ownership back in the team where everyone can be heard, but it also, by being super transparent with the team members for what we're working against or why we're doing something, what ends up happening is instead of getting that shiny object syndrome and trying to deploy 50 things, we might deploy one thing extremely well, but ensure it covers every single department in this company.
Now you talked about looking at the macro a lot of times, and I think that I do that as well, and I'm always kind of looking at what's trending, what's going to be the next thing, like where can I make a leap for my clients that are such a point where everybody has to play catch up over the maybe the next 6 months or something like that. And I know that one particular thing that you're doing this year around the Black Friday is like the augmented reality part of it. Make a sense of like, how do you balance those cool shiny things?
Yes.
And I think that everybody in business, at least ones that are are always kind of looking for the next thing, it's like you're always trying to find, how do you balance that, like trying to do those cool shiny new things, but also staying to like where the tests have proved that you're going to have the best like runway with your marketing?
That's also a challenge. Yeah. and I say that, and it's a blessing in the same respect. We do have a fully vertically integrated team, which is a blessing and a curse, because you can build everything you need in-house. Or no isn't always the best option, or sometimes it is the absolute best option. So to go into augmented reality, what really excites me is, A, it hasn't been done in this space. B, it's going to create a better connection. But looking forward, what is that net to the bottom line? Let's assume 0. But what it can do is, and where we want to take it is, to create a one-on-one experience. Secondarily, when you talk about the macro, some of the things we think about are what's worked in other spaces that are kind of affinities. So look at CrossFit, right? CrossFit has grown like wildfire. It's cult-like, and I say that with respect, meaning the people who are in CrossFit, they identify as CrossFit. So some of the ideas that we'll look at, or from a macro we'll look at, is, okay, what is it that they're looking for? They're looking for community. So then we look at shiny objects and say, how do we create community around augmented reality, which we agree has a net nothing positive? It's 2 parts. Are we investing in, obviously, the economics, but are also investing in something that when somebody goes, wow, Redcon, I'm connected to the brand, and I'm not saying cult-like CrossFit, but to emulate an experience that can generate a community around it.
I know you and I have talked about this a lot around the industry that Redcon1 is in, and a lot of the followers that are on my channel are in the supplement industry. Being that the product has, in a way, like been commoditized, how do you approach differentiating the brand when you are acting in a kind of a commodified product industry?
I think we're very honest with ourselves with the fact that companies like Amazon are going to continue to win the race to the bottom. The generics, whey products, or BCAAs, at some point will become just a generic Amazon product, and that's okay. They're beasts that you're not going to beat.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, the question becomes, why select our products over anybody else's products? If your statement is, for all intensive purposes, it's the same ingredients or the same type of product, why go with ours? What we want to do is two parts. We want to ensure that the products stay the same quality. So again, no disrespect to any company specifically, it's just our formulations stay strong. We don't look at it from a profit margin standpoint of, oh, if we substituted A with B, we can make 5% more. We're saying, is the total war going to hit as hard as it did 2 years ago? Secondarily, we're thinking about, what do you at the gym want? We understand that going to the gym is a grind. It's a mental grind. The physical part is exhausting, but the mental part, after months and months, it's hard. So by introducing new product flavors or new packaging or something where we can include a team like the Alpha team that Aaron spoke about earlier, being able to leverage them in the product development portion creates ownership now amongst the community. So we're looking both from maintaining a certain level of standard, as well as incorporating the community into the process so their voice is heard.
You were talking about the mental fatigue that comes with the gym, but also with being a consumer. There's a lot of just like mental fatigue in terms of like there's so much noise and there's so many things going on, and there's also a lot of the same that's going on, unfortunately. And I think that how do you guys approach maybe the idea of just anything to keep it fresh? Like how do
Sure.
you guys approach like always reinventing yourself to the sense that people can keep the conversation going? They're always thinking about you guys on the top of the pile over, you guys only speaking to your fans once every week or month in this perfect way. Like how do you both, I guess it's both product, but also just like communication strategy. Like how do you guys approach staying on the top of the pile?
I think that's the one thing that's fundamentally different with our company than many companies, and it doesn't even have to be just in this vertical, but just many verticals. We invest a lot of time, energy, effort, and resources into understanding our customers, buying behaviors, and then how external factors that could happen here in our home country, but anywhere around the world, and how can we stay top of mind, understanding how you buy is different than how I buy, or when I buy is different than when you buy, and investing in both analytics and also behavioral studies around our customers to understand exactly why you buy, how you buy, and then making sure that we're communicating to you in a way that fits that format. So an example would be if you're a commodity shopper, you're on Amazon and you're looking for the best deal always, that's okay, and that's a segment of customers. But it would be inappropriate to speak with them or present them with content that we're looking for somebody who's a long-time, lifelong fan. So some of the content we create and how we both discern it on our side from the analytics and then distribute it back out to people, the goal objective is that the way you consume Redcon1 is different from how I consume it based on your individual personalization.
And I think that's a good kind of question here around just how you're thinking about personalization, or just fundamentals around where you see personalization going as we kind of progress here with technology and the ability to both target marketing, but also in a way, and this is probably not a question for you, but maybe you have some thoughts around it, like how you also personalize product.
Sure. So personalization in this world where our attention is fragmented. We used to just watch TV and then go to bed, or read a book and go to bed. So we were it was a very monogamous style consumption of media. Now we have a phone or an iPad plus the television plus audio. There's always a stimulant happening. So when we're thinking about just in general how to personalize something, the question is, how do we know where that individual user is in the journey? And how do we ensure that maybe somebody's newer to the brand? Are we investing more money on the upfront to show who we are and what we do? A lot of people come to the brand that are first responders because we actually do so much donation and discounts and stuff along those lines. So we understand that everybody goes to the gym needs a pre-workout, or majority. But the question is, why choose this over that? So we'll invest much more heavily upfront in making sure you know who we are and why to choose us, and then making sure that narrative stays true through, so that way when you're coming back for your fifth or sixth purchase, you might not want to consume the same content, but we're aligning with the goals that you're actively taking on right now.
There's a lot of things that, for me, coming into this, and this is now the third day that I've been here, I have been lucky enough to work at a hypergrowth startup in this space before, and I've been to dozens, if not over 100 offices of other supplement companies in this space over the last 7.5 years of doing consulting, and I can count probably on one hand the amount of companies where I have felt a certain buzz, a certain something that I couldn't really put my finger on that I felt before, something culture-wise that's just kind of happening that just seems like everybody is just all moving towards this ultimate goal of being not only the fastest growing sports nutrition or supplement company in the space, but the biggest. And I know that's a huge aspiration, and one that they don't throw around lightly here, but I have heard it a few times, and I honestly think it could happen. I mean, I think it's one of those things where the pieces are falling into place, and I think that Ryan is one of those hires that a lot of companies in our space don't make, but they have to make. And I think that you could see by hearing Ryan talk about some of these things and how he approaches just a ton of different concepts, not just marketing. I know that's kind of like pigeonholing him, and if I'm just saying he's a marketing guy. So I want to thank Ryan for his time. When I come into offices, a lot of times I don't connect one-to-one on like a ton of different subjects with some of the people. A lot of times you find a lot of really great things you love with each person, but Ryan and I over the last 3 days, like it's funny how weird we've connected on certain things. We start talking, and then the next we start answering the other person's question.
Agreed.
It's weird. I'm like, man, we must have been like long lost brothers.
Agreed.
Or something.
Agreed.
But I'm losing my hair, and you still have this long.
I'm just gonna keep growing mine in case you need it.
If you guys have any questions for Ryan or myself on anything we talked about in this video, please leave a comment below. I'd love to help you get those answered, or I'd answer them myself. But till next time, see you guys later. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to help support me, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button on this video. If this is the first time you've been introduced to my videos, would love for you guys to be a part of my community by subscribing to my channel. I upload several videos just like this weekly, and if you guys want to connect further outside of this platform, I do include all of my social media links down below. I just want to thank you guys again for your time. Hopefully I gave you some value in return, and we'll see you guys on the next video.